Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today, I'm going to start on the long journey of reading the entire Dragon Ball Z. We just had Akira Toriyama pass away last week. I know that sent shockwaves through most cartoonists' lives, but it didn't really impact me because I've never read any of his stuff. Like Sean and Brandon basically filled me in on the Rest in Peace episode. Uh, like all these things that he's done. I don't play video games either, so I didn't realize the impact he'd had in that world. And they really got me interested and sold on reading Toriyama's work. I've had the complete Dragon Ball Z hanging out on my shelves because we got it for Jack when he came last summer. Me and him were going to do videos, but then he lost interest in it really quick. So I've had these sitting around. I've been intending to read them. But also, I have like a lot of preconceived biases, I'll admit, against especially particularly Dragon Ball Z, just because of what I've seen of it as a teacher going back to like 2007 when I was just substituting in high schools. I always felt like the kids that were into Dragon Ball Z were the ones that were doing the awful rip-off manga, the like style. They were the ones who like didn't couldn't tell stories effectively. They just wanted to tell me all about the power ups and the level ups. And I tried watching the cartoon with Jack, and it just seemed like people standing in fields shouting at each other. So I had a lot of preconceived notions about what Dragon Ball Z was. I know everyone's told me that I would probably like Dragon Ball better, but this is what I've got on my shelf, so I wanted to dip into it, and am being surprised that by a lot of my preconceived notions are being trounced on. Some of them still stand, or I at least see, why it gets those responses that it does, why people copy the style and things like that. So I'm going to go through it, and issue by volume. And so far, I've been enjoying it more than I thought, and found a lot of interesting things that are worth talking about. Some of it's still kind of negative. One of the things that I've seen the art before, so I know what the art is. I was really surprised looking at more of Akira Toriyama's work after the talk with Sean and Brandon, seeing that he prior to this was mostly doing these cartoony type of things with the short, squat, more like Mario Brothers type of characters, and really enjoyed the look of that stuff. So I was thinking, where is that in Dragon Ball? And you pretty much get it in all the backup characters, and I still really like those. My problem with the action figures in these volumes is that they look like action figures to me. The anatomy looks like, I call them sausage people, or it's just like a lump here, a lump here, a lump here. There's no sense of connection and movement, and they tend to stand there very stiff, so they look like action figures. They're obviously designed to be action figures. The costumes are split like right in the places where an action figure would need to articulate and all of that. They also have like this muscle man look that I think part of the reason it makes sense why it appeals to like boys that are 10 is like this is how boys that are 10 draw muscles. They just draw a bump there and a bump there and a bump there. So I think that's one of the things that led to that, like where so many kids just mimic this style, the big spiky hair and stuff, is Toriyama's smart enough that he's speaking to that audience directly and distorting anatomy to fit like what a kid that age thinks when they think of a buff guy. He kind of draws that way. It's just not a style for me. But the rest of the characters in here, the cartooning and stuff, is all really, really fantastic. And I really enjoy all of that, like this cartooning on the face here. Really, really enjoy that. The other thing that I'm coming to this with is like I don't know anything about Dragon Ball, so I'm coming in thinking how well does this stand on its own? Because I know like Jack, I don't think he's read all the Dragon Ball stuff, but he seems to feel fully up to date on the story anyways. With the Dragon Ball Z. So I wanted to see how much of that could I get. And Toriyama's doing a really good job of getting a sense of who the characters are, even though I don't know them fully. I do feel like I at least get a sense of who they are. Like here we get the main character Goku, and he's got his son with him, son Gohan. We're kind of getting introduced to everyone's names. We're getting reintroduced to most of the characters. We're learning that Gohan is based on Goku's grandfather's name. So there's a lot of like actual world building detail going on. One of the things that gets skipped over a little bit is they talk about the Dragon Balls that this whole thing is named after, and they really don't give a sense of what they are. They're just some magic object, and then you get them all together, and you can have a Deus Ex Machina that you could wish for whatever, so you can bring people back to life, I guess, is the big thing with them. It seems to have like this Deus Ex Machina mechanism built into it, but I don't really know what that is because I've never read Dragon Ball. But there's one on the hat, so it seems like maybe not something you'd put on your kid's hat if it's that powerful. But I don't know. Then we get a new premise set up. I think it seems like the old premise was that these characters are trying to get all the Dragon Balls because that gives you power, and they're fighting someone to get them. I would think. I'm guessing that's the plot of Dragon Ball proper. In this one, you get a character showing up looking for someone named Kakarot, I believe is how to say it, and he's a Saiyan. Don't say Saiyan, I'll get in trouble. A Saiyan. He's claiming that Goku is his younger brother. So you're starting to get this new premise building up. And I don't know if Saiyans were talked about at all in Dragon Ball, or if the Saiyan, like, that's all I associate with it, because it's all the kids talk about, going Super Saiyan or whatever. Ultra Mega Blue Instinct, I don't know what any of that means yet, but I'm going to find out. I don't know if that's part of Dragon Ball. I'd be curious if people tell me, but it seems like the Saiyan aspect of it is new to the story, and that's setting up the new premise that he's saying, like, our is a warrior race, and we go to local hospitable planets and sell them to other races looking for living space. And they have to show up and first exterminate the native inhabitants. So to me, it's setting up like a big intergalactic battle, right? Like Earth is now going to be turned into a subdivision for some other alien species. And first we have to get rid of all of the Earthlings, but we have a Saiyan character there with memory loss who's going to protect them. So really good, I think, within the first two volumes or two chapters, setting up a framework for the series, and it's kind of following a Superman framework, that the Saiyans are pretty much all dead, and there's only 4 of them left, and Goku, or Kakarot, is one of them. He just doesn't remember. So he's the alien there to protect Earth from the last members of his species. So you get kind of like a General Zod or something. That's a lot of what I'm looking at in this, are these big kind of structures. Usually when something's so popular, it adheres to, or like squeezes the juice and essentializes even more out of other popular properties and combines them in interesting ways. And that's one of the things that I'm finding really interesting about this is, seeing what this is that landed so hard for so many kids of a certain age. Pretty immediately, Toriyama sets up some really big and good emotional stakes as well. So this character here captures son Gohan, and then you've got like, oh my god, I've got your son. You've got a day to decide whether you're going to join us or not to take over the Earth. And so they put that in there. And then you take away the previous Deus Ex Machina, so that the stakes are reinforced. These 2 characters have already died and been brought back. And then they say, no, the Dragon Balls, the Shenlong, whatever the Dragon Ball summons, never grants the same wish twice. And since you've already been brought back to life, that means you'll be dead this time. So I took that to mean that they've already granted a bring people back to life wish, and that you can't bring anyone back to life. That doesn't pan out to be the case in the coming volumes. But at least those 2 characters, like, that mechanism's gone. So that's something else I notice, is that he's kind of constantly upping the stakes in the story. And that is, for like young boys, going to keep them, yeah. That's really great. Another thing that I noticed here with this character's Piccolo, these really short, stubby arms. I remember seeing a lot of that in Rob Liefeld's art too, where the character's arms are just so short and stubby. I wonder if there's something about that that matches, again, this idea of like what a buff person is in young boys' minds. If there's something about that short, stubby arm proportion that works so well. Because to me, this looks like a Liefeld arm right there. So it's funny to see this in another context from, I'm assuming, around the same time, what that was. That was so appealing to people. I wonder if it matches like the mental homunculus idea that we have of ourselves when a kid thinks about being strong. This is like the mental image they create for themselves, maybe. I'm not sure. It's interesting. It definitely has like a child's story logic in it. Like the moment after we use our combined powers to destroy this raggedy Saiyaman, I turn my powers on you, and this time the earth shall be mine. So this like teaming up with your enemies to get something done, but you know the whole time they're gonna betray you. Just seems like a pretty standard like kind of story logic for kids. So again, I see him using all these very deep, like well observed cultural things that he's putting into it. Like these are what popular stories are made out of. I'm gonna kind of smush all of them together, which is really interesting. There is a lot of the talking and a lot of the standing, which is still hard for me. Like people just standing out in fields shouting at each other. I mean, this book's been going for 73 pages. I enjoy manga decompression in more serious manga where it's emotional, but there's a lot of just like standing around hubris that I saw in the cartoon that is harder for me in these. Another thing that I do have a hard time with in the art is that a lot of the action's pretty stiff. Like this character, again, these just look like Muscle Man characters to me, you know, that he taken this one pose and just has an action figure that he's drawing the character in over and over. It's part of the way that he draws the musculature too. It's hard to, make it move too much. Like this is about as active as it gets. But what he does really well is the effects that he puts in for like the powers. Like this type of explosion cloud shows up a lot, and it's really like juicy and beautiful. And then a lot of the action lines and scratchy stuff cover up, I think, what's missing from like the it's the characters are just too squat and bubbly to really look like fully in action, I think. And he does great cartoon action, like with the cartoony characters, but with the buff guys, he has a little bit of a harder time. This is another good example of, I think, where the effects really, really make the artwork shine. Like the pose on this one is all right, but it's really the effects and the lighting that make it so cool. Another thing that I have a hard time with in here, maybe it's explained in Dragon Ball, maybe it's explained later in the series, I'll find out. But I could see again, like why it appeals to young kids so much, is they have this idea of like his power, that he's got a certain level of power, and that one can always find a little bit more power. Seems to be part of the story, but like they also have these mechanisms that can like give a numerical value to their power, and I don't know how that works. I don't know what power is or what power is supposed to be. Is it like their chi, a life force energy? I don't know if any of that's been explained before, but there just doesn't seem to be any explanatory mechanism, which is fine for the type of story it is, but it all just seems a bit canned and cheesy to me that you've got like, he's got a 1020. Like, how do you know that? How are you reading that? As someone who's older, I kind of want to know. And I feel like most of my students who get into this stuff, who are very, very into like the little details about everything, those seem like the type of fans that would most want to know the mechanisms of everything, whereas I tend to be a more larger picture reader, seeing what like the themes are about. For the very detailed world building characters or readers, I would think that you'd want to fill that in. So I'm just curious if that's been covered already or what, because it's an odd thing. Some more examples of the effects really driving the visual interest, like here focusing on the character's face. Again, really cool effects here, like this spiral effect out there. There's just a lot of variety that I'm noticing. I'll be curious to see if he continues to innovate on those, or if he has like a stock vocabulary of them as the volumes go on. The empowered baby, the empowered child, toddler here, was Son Gohan finding his strength and bursting out of this bubble that he's been in. Very Baby Yoda vibes. I know Baby Yoda would have been like calling back to this, not the other way around. But that character is so popular for a reason as well, and I think that plays into this here, is that it's fun to see a cute little thing be strong and destructive. That's not expected. But also, I think that for kids, it's giving them an idea that kids can be powerful too. Kids can be more powerful than the adults. And they even say that right here. That brat has more power than you. It's only a child, you're joking. So he has like more power than his own father. And you can see the appeal of that to children as well. And then by the end of the first volume, you have this like really intense sequence that harkens back to like some other imagery. Again, the Rob Liefeld ripping off the Lone Wolf and Cub imagery, where you have the one character stabbing him through himself to get to the other character. You have this where Goku's holding on, and then they throw a power ball through the other guy's chest and kill both of them. Up to this point, my understanding was that you couldn't bring anyone back to life using the Dragon Ball. In the volumes that come after this, it's pretty apparent that you can't wish the same person back to life, but you can wish another person back to life. But at this point, in my understanding of how it worked, this seemed like a pretty bold move to kill your lead character. Once I realized that they could just bring it back with the Dragon Ball, it's not as intense of a moment. They show the planet Vegeta that the Saiyans are from, and you get to meet the two others. So now we're down to 3 Saiyans because we've just killed one of them. Well, actually 2, because we've killed Goku as well. So you have this final 2 Saiyans. And actually, I don't think this is Vegeta. This is another world that they're conquering. Really, really love the landscapes in here, the playful, imaginative landscapes. And it makes me wish there were more of this, because so much of the art is just people standing out like in barren fields on cliffs and stuff. And it gets a little visually boring in terms of the background. And this shows that Akira Toriyama has an ability to make really, really compelling and interesting environments. So I'm hoping to see more exploration, since this seems like it's setting it up for an intergalactic battle with aliens from other planets. Really hope we get to explore more of these environments as we go. And then by the end of the volume, you get an expansion of the premise, the expansion of this new intergalactic premise that I think that's being built. Is the 2 Saiyan characters are saying it seems that mixing Saiyan and Earthling blood begets a powerful hybrid. So they're talking about Son Gohan, and then he almost becomes like this savior figure a little bit. It's a bit like what made Invincible so popular as well, that you have like a half Earthling, like someone who's half powered, like Superman type of character. And that's like these characters are now turning to him as potentially the savior of their race. They got to get this new super powered thing. But then at the same time, they're like, no, 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 we don't want someone who's as powerful as us running around out there. So we got to get rid of all of them. And it takes that premise and immediately like subverts it from the savior figure to like, this just sets up the conflict. So again, I think really, really good at setting up narrative stakes along the way to where it's always getting more intense and more interesting for the reader. So that's volume 1. I'm definitely going to keep going until I finish the whole series. This is my way to pay tribute to the loss of a great creator, is that I'm going to start to get to know his work. And I know, like I said, this probably isn't the best one for me, but it's already like showing me why this is so popular. And there's a lot of lessons for me to learn from this. And it's also definitely whetting my appetite for the rest of his stuff, because the stuff that I'm really liking in here is the stuff that I'm being told is what his work is most commonly like, and that this is the most uncommon book for what he does. So this is definitely making me want to go on like a full, I want to all things Akira Toriyama. I can't afford it, but it's definitely whetting my appetite and showing me why this creator was such a revered creator. So very happy that I'm doing this. I'm sad that it's coming on the heels of the tragic loss of a great creator, but this is the best way I can think to pay tribute to someone like that.